Aly Dhalla is an experienced entrepreneur and is in the midst of launching his third company, Finaeo, a digital assistant for financial professionals. As someone who once worked his way up in the financial services world, Aly knows the industry intimately. He's going to share with us today how Finaeo aims to not only help financial professionals, but everyone involved in that world, especially the customer. And he's also going to tell us his top 3 tips to launch a successful startup. This is your third, but you've been involved in all kinds of startups and are very involved in that whole, I don't even know whether it's a current word anymore, ecosystem?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So both in Toronto and Vancouver. Tell us a little bit about your story.
For sure. So I started big bank, a traditional banker, working my way up, kind of paying my way through school, and the financial collapse had happened, and there was obviously a couple of opportunities to move up in the ranks. And so I kind of fell in love with the world of helping people through their finances. The way that I looked at it, it was another way to be a doctor. You're just helping people with their financial health instead of their real health.
And performing some interesting surgeries.
Totally. And at the time, you didn't have surgical tools. You had, Band-Aids and duct tape and shoe leather because the market was collapsing everywhere. But what we had was a great process on kind of how to deal with people. And so as I moved through that career, I had a great opportunity to work at the corporate level and then moved on to the startup world. And so it was this entire new wave. First company was really built around a platform for employee benefits, helping younger people, millennials, make better decisions, leveraging technology in that process. Got acquired by a larger player in the insurance space, an intermediary that allowed us to aggregate products from different suppliers and then distribute through a technology platform.
So were you one of the founders of that first company?
I was the first employee at that first company.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it was a great experience.
So this whole idea of being an entrepreneur or a corporate world guy, it's not unusual to be jumping back and forth. In your case, when you were coming out of high school, for example, did you want to be an entrepreneur?
Absolutely not. I want to be a basketball player. I want to play pro ball.
Okay.
Yeah. A couple knee surgeries and ankle surgeries later, that dream dies off pretty quick.
Okay. So but then you went to a big bank and worked in financial services.
Financial services.
How do you make that leap from being in a big organization to stepping out on your own?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that the first is just pure mindset. So you can be an entrepreneur in a large organization called an intrapreneur. And effectively, it's just being in a place where you can take an entrepreneurial lens to corporate situations, whether that is iterating fast, testing quick, being part of a small team within a bigger organization and being nimble within that organization kind of prepares you to make that leap outside. But at the end of the day, it's just that mindset that I want to be creative, I need to create, and I need to be in a place where I'm not in a box. And entrepreneurship allows us to test our minds in different ways.
Create, collaborate. There's a couple of more C's in this new Friedman book that's out about where he talks about how in this day and age with everything changing so quickly, we have no idea what the jobs of the 10 years from now are going to be. So you have to be an entrepreneur, even if you're working in a big organization.
You do, and I think part of it is also about being a visionary. I mean, you have to be able to take a lens and look past the current, look down the hall and say, well, what is that hall going to look like in 10, 20, 30 years from today? And sometimes that can be really difficult if you're born and bred in one organization. And so I think the people that do go to a couple different places get perspective. When I joined the insurance space, I had no formal education in insurance, but I was able to take that lens of a new person in an old industry that was fragmented and find a new way to do business.
So you've started a new company that's serving that industry, Finaeo. What is it?
Finaeo. So Finaeo is a platform for the insurance professional and financial planners at large. The goal is to help them create better relationships with their clients, leveraging a platform. We think that there's a lot to be desired in terms of how transactions are handled, the transparency within those transactions, and more importantly, the service that's provided from those advisors to that end user.
Give me an example of what you're talking about. And this came out of your own experience of being a financial advisor?
Absolutely. Yeah. So very simple is the application process for any financial product that you purchase. Typically, as a consumer, you give your information away. That information is put into a black box, and a couple of weeks later, you come back with a quote or a different product that you purchased. But in that process, you feel very disconnected from it. And so for us, it was about how do we give the financial professional a tool that allows them to bring that client into that ecosystem and be very transparent around the process around it.
So that still sounds like a lot of gobbledygook to me. Well, how does it work? What is it?
Sure. So we start with a platform that has a digital assistant at the core. So the biggest problem we wanted to solve for these professionals is the metric of how do I create more efficiencies in my day so I can serve my clients better. So taking the example of after a meeting with a client, you have a ton of handwritten notes. Well, a simple way is leveraging audio dictation, natural language processing, and task automation to turn those notes into actionable items for you. And then from there, you have this treble trough of data that allows you to have cross-sell and upsell opportunities or reminders of when to touch that next client. So it's a nudging platform to get you to the next opportunity to work on.
When I think of, you talk about a financial advisor, financial professional, someone selling insurance products or financial products, this is a very paper-driven type of industry, right? Because it's highly regulated. So I know of a company that's taking the paper out of the closing process in M&A activity, for example, okay, with an app. Is that where we're headed? Is it actually going to be possible to be a financial professional and be doing it in a paperless way?
I think part of it is regulation has to enable that change to take place. Internally, we've got this term called the Bionic Advisor. And so the Bionic Advisor is this man-machine hybrid, which leverages technology to work through those paper documentation and to turn it into automation. But from there is still leveraging that eyeball-to-eyeball relationship, because tell me the last time a computer paid out a life insurance claim that really was able to take that
consumer. Got to be a person there, yeah. So with Finaeo, what stage are you at? Like from your kind of your pre-revenue?
Pre-revenue.
So tell us a little bit about that story of putting this company together.
Absolutely, yeah. So the story started with our own observation, myself and two co-founders, of what are the biggest challenges that financial professionals, broad sweeping, are facing today. The biggest was the change in consumer need. So come to me instead of me coming to you. Meet me at Starbucks instead of me coming to your office. And so that first instinct was, well, we need an app. We need something mobile as a tool that you can take with you. So 135 advisors that we started by interviewing, understanding their needs, their wants. We then built our first kind of minimum viable product in 3.5 weeks. We launched a 50-person beta, which ran for 6 weeks after that. And we took a ton of qualitative and quantitative data from there. A lot of feedback, a lot of testing, a lot of wireframing. From there, we raised a little bit of capital. The first $250,000 was actually from our clients. So that was a good indication that there was a product market need. We didn't have fit, but there was a need that we identified.
When you say from your clients, so in other words, the people that would actually be using the app are investing in the company.
Absolutely.
That's a great way to go.
Yeah, and so what we did is we went to these clients and said, hey, at the end of the day, we're an early stage company. We need to hire engineers to solve the problem. You can be part of the journey with us, or you can be a customer at the end of the day. And a lot of them said, well, this is cutting edge. We know this is going to revolutionize the industry, and we want to be a part of that.
So what's the goal? Everyone in North America or the world that's in the financial planning, this becomes a have-to thing to have on their phone?
Our goal is to have it as the advisor's best friend and the global platform for financial professionals, in particular, really hyper-focusing on the insurance advisor.
So, Aly, you're really talking about changing the financial services industry as we know it, which all these technological advancements disrupt industries. Talk to me about how your Finaeo is going to do that.
Yeah, I think for us, we're taking a little bit of a different lens at the term disruption. I think a lot of disruption is built around disintermediation. How do I create a robo version of somebody? And so for us, it's not about creating a robo. It's about creating a bionic, as mentioned. So it's about how do we create machines that help automation to help people do their jobs better. And so it's how do we give these people better technology to enable them to do their jobs more effectively at scale. And so that's where we think we can create some differentiation.
It's interesting, this whole idea that robots are going to take over all the jobs, right?
Yeah.
It's really about creating robots that make us more effective and allow us to do what we love to do better.
And to give us information before we know that we need it to make that decision in real time.
So you're on your third startup. It sounds like it's starting to take off. You're also very involved in this whole tech incubators world on kind of both ends of the country. Tell us about that.
Yeah, for sure. So about 3.5 years ago, we launched a not-for-profit incubator called Tricelerate. And so Tricelerate is geared towards helping early-stage entrepreneurs fulfill their dreams and to really understand the process behind validating and testing an idea. And so it's a very unique model. In our case, we partnered with a local municipality, a local chamber of commerce, and our space is within a local library. And
Really?
so, yeah, it's a really different type of model for us. And so the thesis is pretty simple, that libraries need to evolve and they need to become a center of information in a digital era. And so for us, having entrepreneurs and residents take on that space in a library really opens up what startups could be to the entire community, not just the small tech ecosystem that we all know about.
So being, cities and all levels of government, supporting entrepreneurship in the startup community is kind of like the new motherhood and apple pie. It's like everybody wants to do it.
Yeah.
And it actually is, that's where the economy is growing from. That's where all the new opportunities are coming from, the startup world. So for someone that's not familiar with the idea of an incubator, just explain what we're talking about, incubator, accelerator, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so an incubator, as it sounds, is somewhere where you incubate an idea. So I have an idea to go start a business. What is the next 5 things that I need to do to validate whether that's a real opportunity? The next stage from there is acceleration. So taking this idea that we believe we have a little bit of a validated assumption, now we need to properly take it to market. And so we're going to accelerate that idea into the market, and then from there raise a little bit of capital and keep going. And so it's a launch pad. An incubator is a launch pad to get you to your next level.
So there's for-profit incubators, accelerators. There's sort of sometimes partially government funded. And in your case, it's a non-profit partnering with libraries. I mean, that sounds like it has some potential, because there's lots of libraries across the country that need to adapt.
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely different model. The difficult part when you're running a not-for-profit is everybody's volunteer-based. And sometimes with volunteer-based, the commitment levels can be a little bit shaky. But from a model perspective, I think it's a brand new lens on how cities can come together to focus around true action around entrepreneurship.
So Aly, you, corporate world, into an entrepreneurship mode, your third company, very obviously passionate and dynamic about this whole space. Give us your 3 tips to launching a successful startup.
Okay, 3 tips. So be bold, be fast, and build the best team in the world.
Let's just get into that a bit. Bold, be fast. Now, bold, I get it. It's like that's what being an entrepreneur is. You've got to be that guy that doesn't know it can't be done. Okay, that's number 1. I get the bold part.
Yeah.
What about fast?
Totally.
Is this sort of shoot, ready, aim?
In a sense, but I think what it is calculated testing. And it's about around having a process. And the one thing that startups or smaller companies have at their advantage is nimbleness. You can outmaneuver a larger business because you can test multiple different things at lightning speed. So I'll give you a great example. A marketing message, a social media message, instead of having to go through a board to make a decision, to get an approval, to go to legal, you can just 3 different tests all in the same day, iterate that message on the second. And so it's really about moving at hyperspeed.
So in this day and age of technology advancing at this hockey stick rate, and it's now exponential and exponential, and it's the numbers are starting to get wild. The world's knowledge. It is the startup companies, the nimble companies that are going to change the world.
I believe so. I think we're the best positioned, especially if you take a look at where a lot of mature businesses are from a technology perspective. Taking the lens of the insurance market, you have a very antiquated supply chain, which is 80-85% paper-based. And it's very small tweaks and efficiencies that create beautiful automation within those existing companies. So for us, it's about where can you break in where there is an existing mature practice and leverage technology to automate as much as you can.
Okay, that third thing. Okay, so we said bold, be quick, and then
hire
the team.
Yes.
And it's not just hiring. It's like who you bring on as advisors, who you partner with. It's all about the people.
Absolutely. I mean, we talk about the term the Finaeo family. And so the Finaeo family for us is absolutely our employees. It's our angel investors. It's our clients. It's our strategic partners. So it's everybody who's banding together about this vision of the future. And they're all putting their hands around each other and saying, together we can make it. I have literally my angel investors on speed dial. And I'm calling them, I'm not kidding, once every 2 days in some cases to get that guidance and support. And that's all about creating the best team in the world.
Aly, tons of energy. I can only imagine what you'd have done on the basketball court, but we're so glad that you had some knee issues so that you could help the entrepreneurial world. Thank you so much for coming on Biz
Thank you for having me. Pleasure.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.